Hi, this is Coop's dad, and this is personal to me. All right, good. I'm so glad we got a chance to do this, and I'm glad we're working together. I'm glad I getting to know you. We've met a few times, and I got to tell you, coming up here this morning, definitely increased my heart rate and got my blood pressure up.
Sure.
Because it was a lot of traffic on the freeway. It was raining. It was pouring. I've got my phone up on the dash. I'm doing a little Instagram live, reminder to everybody.
Dangerous.
And, then it starts.
Dangerous.
Right? And then it starts coming down. And I drive a Tesla, so I'm in the carpool lane.
Okay.
And everybody else has stopped.
Yeah.
And it's pouring in the windshield wipers like this. And then I'm live on the thing. Then there's the guy that inadvertently has to pull out, cross the double white line to get in the carpool lane. And so thankfully he was way up ahead, but I'm always looking for those guys, but it's stressful. And because it's a long ways to get up here. So that's a good hour and 15-minute drive.
Yeah, it's a day's journey. Peak traffic hours, it's a full wheel.
If you get stuck in traffic, it's brutal.
Yeah.
And then I grew up halfway here. Driving by that is always a bit of anxiety and stress just because it was...
Where did you grow up around here?
So coming up from Laguna, come up the 605 freeway.
Yeah.
And then we hit the Foothill Freeway to come to you.
Yep.
Halfway up there is where the 5 freeway crosses 605. So on one side of the freeway is Santa Fe Springs, which is pretty much like a Hispanic community. When I was growing up, it was a Hispanic ghetto. So, a lot of bad stuff. The other side of the freeway was, and the river is, let's say it's not Hispanic or privileged.
Okay.
It's like, it was like where all the white people were.
Sure.
So I didn't get over there very much. So I just driving by there just reminds me, that I grew up in this area and I'm no longer there. And so just, it has some good memories, also has some tough memories. And then just go by it. I mean, it's all that area up the 605.
Yeah.
Up to Rose Hills Cemetery, and then there's like a lake farther up above
The dam, right?
Yeah. And we used to ride our bikes up there and go fishing.
Yeah, we do USAR rope training over in the Santa Fe Springs Dam. That's like a big thing for firefighters. They'll go down there, they'll pull out all the rope kits, they'll go ahead and do that. So I'm familiar with it. They also have medieval times festivals there every year. So.
Well, there was a medieval times restaurant, like a theme restaurant, right? And sorry about that. We used to, you kind of occasionally on dates you would go there because it was something to do, and you'd watch the show, and it was pretty good. But I've heard about those festivals. They're kind of interesting.
Yeah.
Right?
You can cheer for your favorite person, but green night, red night, blue night. But I'm glad that you're here. It reminds me of the first time that we actually kind of met and got together.
I wanted to talk about that because, so just to give everybody a little bit of a background on how we got connected was before Coop passed, we didn't know any of this. Coop passed, all of his friends were at our house. We were trying to figure out what we were going to do for what do we do? Right? I guess you just don't think about this your kid's going to pass away. You think about Treva and I had met with an estate attorney a couple years prior. We need to get all our stuff in order for our kids and taxes and all that. So they outlined for us in really good detail, what happens if you get sick and you're incapacitated. Think about if you pass away, are you gonna prepare for it? Do you want to be buried? Do you want to be cremated? Where do you want to do this? So it makes you think about all this, which we planned out. But when, we have an unexpected death, particularly of a child, which is, and it's not supposed to happen that way, You're supposed to pass away and your kids survive. One of my best friends from high school, about 6 months prior, his daughter passed away unexpectedly from an illness that could have been prevented during COVID, but COVID stopped a lot of things from happening.
Yeah.
Couldn't get to see certain doctors, couldn't get into hospitals, things of that sort. got too far along. She passed away. My friend Mike said, call our buddy who, has a mortuary service and talk him through this. And that guy saved us. I mean, it was epic. He just said, take care of all this stuff for you. I'll lay it out. You guys can make decisions so you can concentrate on this. So we got that in order for Coop. And then, he's living up in L.A. and doing modeling and social media stuff. So he's got a whole world of friends up there, which a lot of them you've met recently. But, he grew up in Laguna Beach and had all these friends there. He grew up surfing and playing volleyball and playing baseball. So there's a whole other life that basically, he kind of left to do the things he was passionate about in L.A. But his childhood friends, they all grew up surfing, and we grew up at the beach. So what's kind of customary is to do a paddle out like they do in Hawaii, where everybody goes out on a surfboard, has a big, creates a big ring out in the ocean past the waves. Typically you have Hawaiian lays, somebody says a prayer and things, and then everybody splashes and throws the lays out, and they go out in the ocean, and that's how your spirit goes. So his friends wanted to do this. So we said, sure. And they all came to our house. A lot of the folks from LA, they're not beach people. I mean, they're all from all over across the country, Ohio and Tennessee. And so they come down, we do this. I think we have a video of this on the Coopsadvice Foundation YouTube channel. You can see what it was like. It was really endearing. But they're all at our house. And Coop's manager, Alana, and a couple of his other good friends that he worked with, Alex, and I think it was Alex and Alana, basically said, we want to do a foundation. And that was on a Thursday. On Tuesday, it was set up, and it was off and running. How we got started with this. So they tell us that Coop had 3 things he wanted to get involved with. And one of them was with you. And that he had reached out to you, and they wanted to support it. So we knew nothing about it. So the foundation gets started. There was that, trying to build the long term was to build a treatment center, like a post recovery, like he went to a boarding care school after he went to Wilderness, something of that sort, once you get out of detox, a recovery center that was real. And he did the Discord. So we kind of we got educated what the Discord was, and then they told us about Overdose. I had no clue what that was about. I kind of explained to us what it was, but we said, okay, well, let's this is what he was into. We'll start off with this and do this. So we fast forward. Treva and I want to meet you. And we said, okay, we're gonna let's get into this. We figured out what you were doing, that you were doing training for naloxone and giving out free Narcan, and we wanted to support it. And we Coop wanted to design a T-shirt and have proceeds go to you. So we want to come up and meet you, and so we came up here, and. Dude, I was like, what did we get into here?
Sure, a whole nother world, It
wasn't even that. It was like, we walk in, and it's like, okay, here's this nice office building. So here's this big-ass burly dude who's I don't know, what are you, 6'4" or something? 6'4", you're ripped, you got tats all over it. I'm like, oh my God. I mean, it's like, if I go to some prison thing, So I'm walking down the hall, I look at Treva, she looks at me like, okay, we come in, we talk to you, and okay, so now we listen to who you are and what you're doing and realize this is a super professional guy. And the anxiety went down like a couple 100 levels.
That's good. Who's this giant human being that we're about to talk to?
We had no idea. And so we met you, and we learned a little bit about you and what you're doing, and we were very thankful. I was just curious, what was your experience like these two older people coming from Laguna?
I mean, I was just super nervous because for me, Coop had reached out to us through Instagram initially. and I didn't know like his background. I didn't know who he was. For me, my initial meeting is he had reached out to us and had just been like, hey, I really want to help the people around me. So I called him. I got on the phone with him.
Well, you actually spoke with him.
Yeah, I spoke with him a few times.
I thought this was all like Instagram DMs.
So some of it was like our initial, and then we set up like, I remember he was like, let's set up a business call, or he said a biz call. He was like B-I-Z. I thought it was
wait, let me ask you this.
Yeah.
I get DMs all the time, and I mean, there's tons, right? Mm-hmm. I know you guys get a lot.
Totally.
So how do you go by like selecting to respond to this guy? Because I get a lot of stuff.
We try to go through all of them. We had that was in June of 2022, and we've grown a lot on there. So we used to get through them a lot faster with a few volunteers like going through like the message inbox. Mm-hmm. Now we have a lot more. Now it'll take us like 3 weeks to get through every single one, but we start at the top and we just go down the list, and we just try and get back to each person, unless it's, a spam account, or unless it's something that's like they're trying to have us promote a product because we're a nonprofit. Like, we don't do that. Right. So he was relatively early. Like, we could spot him. Like, I was just going through and basically just responding to people that were like, hey, can I get some naloxone? Can I get some test strips?
Well, they have questions.
They have questions, right? Like how long is it good for? Like all these things. And I talked to him on the phone, and he was just like, he told me his vision, right? And how he wanted to create a treatment center, and how he really just wanted to keep his friends safe. So you met AJ, right?
Oh, AJ, his friend AJ?
No, our AJ. Treva comes and packs.
I don't think so.
Sometimes. I think AJ's super cool. He's like
I don't think I met him.
One of our person that works with our day-to-day operations and does a ton of trainings as well. And we were actually, it hadn't even been a week, and we were packing one of our like large boxes, and we didn't realize that he had experience with drugs or anything like that. And
you really didn't know much about him.
We didn't know much about him. We knew that like everything that I knew about him is he was really nice and he was really thoughtful. So I told him, I remember telling him, anything you want, like, we're going to support you 100%. Like, that's what we do, right? If you message us, you say, hey, I want to help my community, give them free resources. That's what we do. That's literally why we exist.
Did he give you any kind of information on who he was or what he was doing?
No, he was the most humble guy.
Yeah, like, so he didn't like say, hey, like, I'm he wasn't
like, hey, I'm like this thing. He like, it was like, we could tell obviously through Instagram, if you look at somebody, right, they have like a large following and everything, but he never like put that over him or like try to think. He was just really genuine, and our conversation was really about like, how can we keep his community safe? That's what he wanted to do. And something as an organization that we really try and fulfill is, obviously we do a ton of outreach and we do a bunch of training, but we really want to make people want to go help the people around them. They're the best messenger. They're the best trainer.
Yeah, I think they're more believable, right? More credible.
Yeah, it's like, do you want to hear it from your friend, or do you want to hear it from me? Like, you don't know me, right?
Well, it's like trying to hear it from your parents.
Yeah,
that's the world I'm in. Nobody wants to hear it from their parents,
which is like, which is
cool.
Tale as old as time. So we got him fentanyl test strips, we got him naloxone, we were packing it all together, and that's when we got the news, and we hadn't realized that he had basically done some lives and had been talking about it, and I started looking into him more and more and more, and like I was shook because I had literally just talked to him. I had literally just talked to him on the phone. So
you mean right before he passed?
Like a day or two about, hey, it's coming, like all this stuff is here. And I remember telling AJ, hey man, don't send the box like yet, right? And that's how we got just enmeshed in everything, right? Like, a lot of people had connected with us, and we were doing trainings in schools and everything else, but it brought us into you, and then you reached out to us, and like, obviously when you were like, hey, we want to come and see you, like, we want to come down here, I've lost people in my life. I lost my fiance to an overdose. I've lost tons of friends. I know there's nothing worse. There's no worse feeling than losing someone you love. Yes,
but I mean, you shouldn't lose them.
You shouldn't.
That's the thing. There's a difference when something was not preventable, but when it's preventable, that's the thing that's heartbreaking, and that's what we struggle with. Coop didn't have to die.
Yeah.
So I mean, that's it's part of the message that we're trying to, convey to kids and parents that this whole world has changed a lot, and you just have to be careful with everything you do. You never met him?
I never got to meet him.
You didn't
I never got to meet him. I got to meet him on the phone, and then we went live, or not live, Facebook or
FaceTime.
FaceTime.
Oh, so you actually got to chat with him?
we talked.
Okay,
yeah.
Got it. Okay. Well, I'm glad you got a chance to actually see him and chat with him.
Yeah, he was funny.
Yeah, it was interesting. Post all this, the things that he was involved with. He was 19. He was going to turn 20 in about a week and a half after he passed away. But he was real insightful, forward-thinking, and we found out stuff like that where we never thought he was really concerned about, other than the day-to-day. You're just like a normal kid. What am I doing today? What am I going to eat? What am I going to do? What are my friends doing? But he was, we found out he reached out to a lot of people, was very mature. I mean, it's bizarre, just very, I don't even know I can't find the word to describe it. But when you have like these visions and you go and act on them, most kids aren't even thinking about things like that. It's like Xbox and girlfriends and what are we going to do this weekend, right? And he was really involved with this. And when he started the Discord channel, a lot of the things that we've seen, videos that he did promoting it, and people that have actually responded back to us that said they chatted with him on Discord. He would pick somebody's random message and they would have, conversations about their struggles and his support with it. It's like, wow. I mean, it just was mind-blowing that a kid that young could be that mature. And, then he passed. So that torch has kind of been, I feel that's been like just shifted over to us. So, which brought us up to meet you. We wanted to see who you were, what was going on. We didn't know what we were going to be supporting. We liked the idea, but to me, it's always the people behind it. It's like the culture.
Totally.
And it was a little different when we met you and was like, oh God, this guy looks like he just came out of like a gag or something.
No. City servant. So.
But I mean, I grew up, we didn't have tats and stuff, although my wife has a number of them now.
She's blasted now. She has like 12, right?
Yeah, she's into it. She's getting more tributes for Coop and our daughter Parker. I will probably get a few. I'm waiting to a break in my schedule to schedule this guy that they use up in LA, and I have to spend probably a day there to get some things done.
Where are you gonna get?
That's a good question. I'm going to definitely get the two butterflies that are significant of what Cooper and Parker and all his close friends have. Treva, Sab, Jaden, all that. I'm probably going to get dates, birth date, last heavenly birth date. Parker just was really interesting. The artist is named Justin. He took from the photos, he did one of Cooper's eyes and one of Parker's eyes and did them on her forearm. So as if it was one person. And it's so weird because you look at one and I see Coop and look at that and I see Parker. And yet it's like of the same face. It's really, she thought of that. It's really cool. I think I might actually do that on my other arm.
That'd be sick.
Yeah, so it's just an honor of my kids because they're doing so much.
Yeah. That's cool.
So I think a lot of people kind of know a little bit about me. They know a lot about Coop, but I want people to know about you as well. So you're CEO of End Overdose. Tell us about just briefly what End Overdose does.
Yeah.
And how you got involved and what you do. So like what you are, because you're not a prison gangbanger, crazy guy. You're actually quite the opposite, but you just got a lot of tats.
I like that you thought that of me. He's got a lot of tattoos.
Like, what am I gonna do?
That's funny. Yeah, so End Overdose, nonprofit organization that's focused on really empowering people to save others' lives, right? And we're a training organization first, so we train people to identify and respond to opioid overdose, and we provide them with the free resources to save a life. We really believe that in today's world, with everything that's going on, that people need to be equipped with the knowledge that they can to save others, especially those around them. As social things change, as drugs get stronger, we need to be able to kind of, if you look at it as a scale, right? Like, drugs are getting more powerful, but the tools that people have to protect themselves and save others aren't meeting that.
Oh, yeah.
So we need to basically, to me, naloxone should be free across the country. My hopeful goal is that everybody gets trained to respond to any drug emergency, and they have every tool necessary that they would ever want to need to save someone's life.
Yeah.
Right. And so last year we trained 110,000 people, over 110,000 people.
Wow. That's crazy. That's a lot of people.
Especially if you look at how many people we trained in 2020. In 2021, we trained a little over around I think it was over 5,000.
Wait a minute. How much was it last year? 100 and what?
Over 111,000.
So that's about in 2021. I think the overdoses related to fentanyl were about 110, 101, 102,000.
Yeah, so they had an adjusted rate for 107,000.
Yeah. Okay. So you basically trained more than what people passed away from. 2022. I don't think that's out yet, is it?
They're usually two years behind on opioid overdose data. It's just the way that they collect the information and then put it forward. But our goal for this year is to actually train 250,000 people. We're on track to meet that goal, so long as we continue to work with others, continue to develop our online training. We do mass events.
But you're also training. You can do the training online at your website, but you're also training people to train others.
Absolutely.
Okay. Got it.
So we do a few things. One of the things that we do is we work very media facing, where all the aspects of nightlife. We will train and certify professional venues like at bars, nightclubs. We'll go out and we'll go to different types of events, nightlife events. We'll do all the trainings there. And then we also focus on schools. So we have a huge school program. Actually, today we're training Alma Fuerte High School. That's going on this morning. And
your crew is sufficient enough where you don't need to be there.
No. I still that's one of my favorite things to do is to do the training.
But you'll show up and stuff when you can.
Yeah, I just, now that we're doing so many other things, I can't do it anymore, which sucks. Yeah. But everyone that we work with is really, really good at it. I guess, the way I got into it is, my background and my experience has always been around this issue, right? I grew up in Seattle, Washington, if we have any Seattle people out there.
It's the grunge capital
of the world. Grunge capital of the world. I lived there until I was 19.
Maybe Dave Grohl is on today.
Hey,
he's a follower.
Okay, cool. Sweet. And my community got really affected by the OxyContin epidemic. Because what people, right now, there's a lot of push on synthetic opioids, but opioid overdose and overdose in general has been a problem for a long time.
Long time.
And it's just the numbers are continuing to rise. And my whole community got devastated by the OxyContin epidemic. A lot of people that I grew up with, including myself, got addicted to pills from an injury, right? We broke legs, something happened.
I understand that. They're not necessarily partiers. I know a lot of people that have struggled with it from having surgeries.
Yeah.
Then all of a sudden they're just addicted.
Well, that was partly because of the predatory nature of Purdue Pharma. They told everyone that OxyContin was a non-addictive painkiller, and now this is...
What was the name of the movie that Michael Keaton was in? Did you ever see that? It was
about...
Dope Sick.
Okay.
Crazy.
Okay.
I mean, it was insane about... Basically, it's just... I mean, it's like anything else.
Sure.
Follow the money.
Yeah.
And so many people addicted and died. The hardship, for families and people from really just for the money. Getting people addicted and selling more oxy, getting the doctors to write it and say that it was not really that addictive.
Not addicting, very prevalent, pushed a lot of it. But what ended up happening was a lot of people I grew up with, including myself, became addicted to that substance and then transitioned once it went away. And what ended up happening is I ended up getting sober at 19. I actually moved to California.
Well, when did you first get addicted to
13.
Oxy? 13.
13.
So you had prescription pills at 13.
Yeah.
What kind of injury?
So I wanted to do stunts. So I jumped off a flight of stairs and tried to do like some spin or something. Not a great idea. It would have been sick if I had nailed it. If I had landed it, it would have been really cool. Didn't land it, destroyed my leg. Just broke it in like broke tib, fib, and full compound. It sucked. And so I was in a cast for like 6 months. Couldn't walk on it.
More than one surgery?
I think so. Yeah, I have 3 titanium bolts in my left leg. But it
obviously didn't stunt your growth.
Didn't stunt my growth. It still got super tall, right? It still got super tall. But yeah, and I remember they just gave me a bunch of pill bottles with almost unlimited refills.
So like you get the, like you get post-surgery, you might feel pain for the next week, and they give you like 100 pills.
Yeah. So
that's
like,
crazy.
and for, I was 13, so they were giving me Oxycontin 80 milligram pills plus, Percocet. And so, I mean, I was having a great time at the time, because I didn't understand, right? And once that happened, I was basically on those pain meds for almost an entire year. And right when I got off of them, I transitioned to high school. And once I got into high school, I was able to get whatever I wanted.
So you get off the prescription, and you still have a desire, a craving for it.
Absolutely.
So what do you, street drugs then?
Totally. Yeah. I mean, for me,
is that the atypical story? From Oxy?
It depends. I mean, there's like people that I know that go straight to it, right? Like I'm in recovery communities as well now, but not everybody has the same path, and not everybody that uses is an addict, right? Not everyone that uses has substance abuse problems. So it's different. For example, like I had a friend that did that stuff with me. He doesn't even touch it anymore. It's like a non-issue for him, right? But me, I was just different, right? I even if when I wanted to, I couldn't stop. And so I think a lot of times people get lost on, if you use anything, you automatically have a substance abuse problem.
Well, there's a whole stigma with everything, drugs, mental health.
Especially mental health.
Well, let me ask you about this, because I've never done this stuff, so I don't know. In fact, as a former athlete, I've had a few surgeries. Seriously, it was like 80 pills. And it's like, I've never took one of them. It's like, I don't even want this. They send you home with it, one of them, and say, fill this. And I'm like, not interested. I was too frightened that I would get addicted to this. When you were addicted, and when you get to that point, is it that I need to have it, or was it that I like it and I want it? Because I've met people that have been addicts, and they go, I know one in particular who just says, dude, I can't do Coke anymore. He goes, but I loved it. He goes, I still love it. But in perspective, in the years I've had of sobriety, and he says, I'm not going to jeopardize my wife and my family and my career, all we've built. Goes, but, I go to meetings every day. He goes, I want it. Yeah. Every day I feel that. Sure. So there's a want versus the need. Well, what was it like for you?
I mean, I think that it's like a spectrum, right? And at some point you cross a threshold, right? And for me, or like, at least my experience with it had been, what started off as something that was just kind of like enjoyable, right? Immediately turned into something that I felt like, I would describe it like a person, like the love of your life, right? It feels like a relationship that you're in.
Wow, I've never heard it said like that.
And so
that's interesting.
It would be like, this isn't, and this is just with substance abuse, right? This isn't like anybody that just uses, right? People, take mushrooms on the weekend, they're fine.
Right.
This was like,
or you have like my wife and I will have a glass of wine at dinner.
Fine, you know, totally cool, not a big deal, right? People go out, they have a night party.
We're not going out and getting hammered. I mean, it's like, I don't want to feel that way.
Well, some people,
when you stop, like, this is good. I don't want to go there. I don't want to overindulge.
My brain, just because I'm, have substance abuse, that's where it always goes. I can't control the amount that I take, right? I don't know why it's like that, right? But that's what it's like. And stopping isn't really, and it's not really an option, right? It would be like, this is what gives my life meaning. This is what makes my life better. This is what allows me to get through the day.
Because you just feel better.
It's not even about feeling better, right? This is just what you do. My only way to live a normal life is with this. My life would seem abnormal if I didn't have it at all. And so that's why substance abuse is such a difficult thing to encounter, because it can be frustrating for people that are on the other side of it.
Yeah, I can see it.
And because of just, how we can look at some of these things, people can moralize it, and it makes it really difficult to ask for help. There's also, a lot of the struggle that comes with substance abuse is there's a lot of secrets, right? Yeah. So you end up keeping a lot of secrets. You're not always telling people what's going on, and that can lead to a lot of distrust, right? So people that are suffering from substance abuse, not all of them, can be a very challenging person to help, right? Yeah. And until more recently, for example, where I grew up in Seattle, I went to a substance abuse treatment center when I was 17. It was the only youth treatment center in King County. There was only one, right? So mental health services, they're not robust. Like, California's kind of special, but across the nation, there's not a lot of easy and accessible ways to get care, especially if you're somebody that's, affected by those things. For you to self-identify something that isn't going to have a giant paywall in front of it, right? Where you can just be like, hey, I need help right now, right?
What was it like when you're in that facility? Did they know what they're doing?
I mean, I don't know. I was 17. I didn't want to be there, right? Like, I kind of got strong-armed to go in there, and there were people that cared. Yeah, people cared, right? And it was, just the way that they, had their messaging, I just couldn't hear it at the time. I just wasn't ready to listen to it. And the thing is, if somebody's not ready to listen to that, they're just not going to hear it.
You were in high school?
Oh, yeah.
Did you graduate?
Yes.
Were you playing sports?
Oh, no.
No.
I played ultimate Frisbee. It's
fun.
Mean,
so you're basically were grades good? No?
No.
You're just
they were bad.
Partying?
That was it. I mean, you could call it that. It was different. That was it, man. That was it. It wasn't cool. It wasn't like a movie. It was like a bad movie.
So this is what's so different for me to process is like a lot of the kids that I talk to by way of Coopsadvice or social media messages, they're struggling with a lot of different things. Self-harm, addiction, cutting, which is self-harm, anorexia, depression, anxiety, a lot of different things. But a lot of it stems from, you got to kind of unpack it, and it gets down to mental health as a core, whatever those life experiences were they've had as in youth, home, parents, friends, abuse, whatever, right? The whole deal. But that wasn't your, that's right, that wasn't your, you didn't get into it from a mental health issue. Mm-mm. You got into it basically, you're kind of like sideswiped because of an injury. And all of a sudden, now you have a dependency on pain medicine that you were given for an injury, a severe injury. It's like, that's just not fair. It's not right. But there are those that don't seek help because of the stigma of mental health, right? And then they, self-medicate or find an escape and what have you, all these different things. And then it goes down that slippery slope to addiction or death. And so it's interesting that you have a different entrance into addiction than what I hear a lot of kids are struggling with, which is mental health.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, substance abuse is mental health, right? So,
well,
like, I think there are some people that are just, you may be predisposed to it, right? That specific side.
Yeah, I mean,
because a lot of these things, they're not just, there's some biological and then there's social factors as well, right? Like, my upbringing was relatively good, but there was still a lot going on that also put me in a position to be more inclined to do that type of thing, right?
I mean, there's no perfect environment of growing up. There's no perfect scenario. We all going to struggle with something.
That's true, but some are definitely worse than others, and I make no qualms about that. Especially like in the district, like I work as a fireman. Like people have very, very challenging lives, and you just gotta support people and give them a lot of love and a lot of community.
No, it's on the Discord. It's one of the things that I've just tried to like understand the environments that we're playing in, that we're involved in. Like coming here to understand more about your environment. Yeah. The Discord environment where we've got, Coop has about 200,000 plus people chatting and stuff about mental health and their struggles. The one common theme that I see through all of it is these kids, and they're basically 12, 13 to 25. They need to talk with somebody or communicate with somebody and feel heard. Number one, they don't have anybody to talk to. Yeah. Like best friend or family member or friend. I guess maybe it's the secret thing. It's also that, anything that you feel might not be, that falls into the mental health world, it's such a stigma. It's a negative stigma, which I just don't understand that because, I just, even in my own career, going back as an athlete, when I came back to compete as an adult, the sport I was playing, it evolved quite a bit.
What is your sport?
It was indoor volleyball.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, so it evolved from when I played in college.
I'm really bad at volleyball.
He'd be really good at volleyball with the height.
Terrible. I'll miss it. Like throw it up. I'm not going to get it. Yeah, I'm not going to make it there.
I went back and I actually employed a specific coach to help me with the skills, because the game changed. Bigger, faster, more powerful, blah, blah, blah. If you go to, when I was in my real estate career, I've hired real estate coaches to there's a lot of stuff that I know, but there's getting somebody's different perspective and helping you refine your skill set and, helping you look outside, giving you different views, 100% effective. Mental health, if like you break your leg, like you said when you were do stunts when you're younger, no one has a stigma that you need to go to a doctor. So you go to a doctor. The doctor says you need to get a specialist. So then you go to the specialist, which is an orthopedic or somebody that's going to deal with these type of like broken bones and compounds and all that. And then you get well, right? But if you don't feel okay, it's not cool to talk about it. It's not okay to talk about it. And it's not okay to seek help because you're ostracized and you're criticized and you're made to feel like something's wrong or you're bad because you have, I don't know, you don't feel well today. You don't know why. You're feeling whatever the feelings are, depressed, anxious, hurt. I think that's a lot of it, is really when you unpack it, is there's pain down the very core, and it's how people try to deal with it. And I mean, there's good professional help, and there's the environment of being, it's okay to talk about it and express yourself, but there's a big disconnect from mental health to like physical health. And that mental health stigma is, I think it's exasperated by social media. And I just think we have a whole generation that is spiraling because they have no one that can hear them.
I think it's every generation.
Well, I think you're right. Yeah, I think you're right.
I think everybody, like, as far as you could say that, it's easy to look at generations and just be like, okay, these people are too emotional, but where one is more vocal, one is more closed. Yeah. And that in itself is a huge problem, right? The denial of emotion, right? Everybody
my
feels.
generation's like, I'm a boomer. Everybody was like, you guys are, shut up, don't be a pussy.
Yeah.
Suck it up. I mean, seriously.
Just
it's
pull
like,
together, pull yourself up by the bootstraps, right?
Yeah.
Wipe the blood on your face.
Just move forward.
Yeah.
Move
just
on.
Keep going, right? And it's like, all right. Anything that like gets crammed down. We were talking about that a little bit earlier, into the, the depths that you don't pull out and look at.
Dude, I'm just going to share this with you, and this is hard to share. I have never. I've talked to people in the past, and I've had friends in the past commit suicide. And I had an aunt when I was younger. My mom's best friend, it was her sister. They hid it from us and didn't know till years later. And my cousin, her daughter, and didn't know till way later. They didn't tell her that her mom committed suicide. She eventually found out, I guess, when they think like you're old enough to handle it, right?
Sure.
So I can never understand how someone could get to that point and want to take their life. I've seen from kids that there's kind of two simple things that happen. They don't want to feel this way, so they self-medicate, and they feel different. So they don't have to feel it. Like they're masking it for a period of time. I'm going to get high. I've got that. I'm going to go do things, but I just don't like the way this feels. Whether it's anxiety, depression, that they don't like themselves, how they look, whatever. They don't fit in. So they go self-medicate. And the other part is they want to go away, and the only way to go away is they kill themselves. That's how it goes away permanently, because they just can't deal. I never could understand that because it's just, maybe it's part of my faith, and then, it's just so drastic, But in December, I could see it after Cooper passed away. Like, I can only envision it. I can just try to describe it to you. Everybody has their pictures in your mind about things. There's like my life, and then there's this real dark spot, like right here to the side of my peripheral vision. It's like a black space. And to me, it's death. It's like devil pulling you to hell. It's death. It's not like good death. It's like bad death, because you're it's like you're gonna kill yourself because you want to go away, as opposed to like you're not with God here, not some kind of heaven concept. This is bad, and I could see it. It's like because the pain's so hard, and I see how when people have said it's the hardest thing you're gonna ever go through, losing a child. You shouldn't have to do this, but you're in it. And in December, I think part of it because Coop passed away in June, really not dealing with the processing of grief, and truly, I still haven't. Because I haven't found one father who's lost a son to fentanyl, that lane of fentanyl, to talk with. So I haven't been able to speak to it about what it's like to somebody else. So it starts to, like a boiling pot, it starts to, overflow. And man, I was trying to keep the thoughts away because it was so bad. I really thought I was going to do it. And I just, I think about Parker, I think about Treva. I think about what my faith has taught me. I think about Coop. Like, would you want me to do this? How would you feel if you were here, or you are here? I believe he's here. Like, you wouldn't want this to happen. It was the things that I really feel it's my faith in God that kept me from moving very close to that spot, where I think you can get to a point with certain things, or you're too close and you get burned, or you get sucked in. I just feel there's a point where it's like point of no return. And then it goes. I was thinking about, how do you do this? How would I do this? Seriously, like, because there's ways that are immediate, and there's things that can be like maybe they're not successful, or maybe they're very painful. I don't know. It's just it's the craziness that goes on. But I'm like, man, these kids I talk to all the time on the Discord, a lot of them are talking about this stuff, and they're little kids. It's like, that's just not right.
Well, what situation would you have to be in for you to be thinking about it then, and being where they're at? You
mean where it was for me?
Well, I think that a lot of people, for example, like now, I have a lot of community, I have a lot of support, there are people around me, but like there was a time when I didn't have any of those things. And that's all you can see. I call it the void.
Yeah.
All you can see is that. And there's nobody to bounce it off of. There's no one to talk to. You don't have any support from friends or family. Maybe your family is part of the reason, right?
I'll just tell you, it was not an option for me to talk about it with Treva because, I mean, she's grieving tremendously. I'm not going to, so I'm talking about secrets, right?
Totally.
Yeah. I'm not going to, I don't want her to worry about this. She's got enough on her plate, just losing, look, we get introduced to children as parents, as dads, that you'll see someday, but moms carry that baby for 9 months, so it's a symbiotic relationship we'll never understand. So they're growing, they give birth, we get introduced. So I don't even have that. I can never understand what she's gone through or going through. I'm certainly not going to talk about it with Parker because I don't want to set her off. I had nobody to talk to about it, and I just knew it was the bubbling up of the grief and not dealing with it. And what kept me from going through is I started praying all the time. And I had to train to keep my mind off that void, the black area that I was describing, because you start thinking more about it, and then you start becoming more obsessed about it. And I just go, this is wrong. This is not, no, I'm not going to do this. I guess I had enough of myself to not, but, is it over? No, I don't think that ever goes away. It's a matter of how, like the scar we were talking about earlier, you can get all ripped up and sutured, like in war, right? And you're not going to have the plastic surgeon scar. You're going to have like a bad scar. I mean, I feel that's what my life is. I'm dealing with a bad scar, but that doesn't mean I have to be dead. And it means that so now I look at it this way. There's positive things to do instead of focusing on the negative, okay? So what's my role in this? And so that's giving me, it's helping heal, and it's doing good things, I think, for other people. And it's one of the reasons why I'm here today. I mean, I have a really busy real estate day back at home. And it's like, you know what? It'll all be fine. I just know it. It all gets taken care of. Because I'm supposed to be here doing these things. And I believe God just makes it all happen. And then you come back and it's just even better than you thought it was. So I don't have that kind of anxiety or about that. I think I've just learned today to not look so much at the void.
There's a lot to be said about being able to kind of like steer your focus, right? And I think one of the things, at End Overdose, we really want to make sure people have is that transition if they do need help, right? Because it's so challenging, especially like if your environment isn't too good, right? Maybe you don't have like reminders around you that are positive. And that huge piece of the feeling like you're a burden, feeling like there's nobody that I can talk to, there's nobody that would understand, right? Making sure that people have basically a hand to reach out to when they don't have anything, that's something we want to make sure people can get connected to. And I think Coopsadvice is really starting to take off on that, especially with the Discord, right?
It's one aspect. It's one aspect where kids can talk to other kids. I think part of that is the anonymity. I mean, there's kids from all over the world. I mean, I got a shout out the other day from somebody from Russia. I'm hoping that was legit because Russia's pretty tight on their connection with the U.S. Never had anybody from China. That will never happen, or like North Korea, but Romania, Ukraine, all that stuff. There's a lot of kids on that, but there's a so I think they feel there's other kids like me, and it's different because there's a degree of separation, right? Because they're not actually talking; they're chatting, texting, etc. But there's also the guilt and shame cycle, I think that's why, that would be why I didn't talk to Treva and Parker about this. There is guilt and shame about it. And today I don't feel, I've talked about it with Treva since then. And there's not, I don't feel guilty, I don't feel shameful of it because I can feel safe talking to her about it at the right and appropriate time because I'm respectful of her and what she's going through. But I'm still looking for that other person that I can talk to as a peer.
Do you go to therapy?
I do with treatment with a therapist, but I haven't gone solo in a while.
It's time. Everybody saw it here live. He's going to therapy.
I am going to go to therapy.
I go every week, man. It's like taking care of your body. Like you're pretty fit, right? You got to take care of your body. You got to be able to take care of your body.
I don't know why. I was the one that got Trio and I to go to therapy originally.
Sure.
Although she might deny that, but and we met this wonderful girl, Karen. She was at the in Emerald Bay. She was in the audience. She actually showed up. Our therapist. Awesome. I love her. She's wonderful. I don't know, Theo. Also, if part of it is also self-punishment.
Sure.
For wasn't a good dad. I couldn't protect my son, and he died. Mm-hmm. So, so maybe my take out of this today is to go to therapy from your suggestion.
I mean, there is a feeling of survivor's guilt. When I lost my fiance, I felt like I dodged a bullet, and I felt like I was the one that caused it. And I don't know why, but I know that the emotions that I had no concept of time. And I didn't want to feel them. I just kind of pushed them aside. And it's so easy to get caught up in your day-to-day. And it wasn't until I actually started to talk to someone about it that I started to actually walk through it. I felt everything. It sucked. It made me feel awful. But I couldn't begin to heal until I had really started to get in those places of vulnerability, because nothing good lives in the dark.
No, it all comes to the surface, doesn't it?
It all comes. And the thing that I started, what I do on a day-to-day basis as well, you're for me, it's a jar. You can only keep so many emotions in that thing, right? And you're full, right? So if I'm not taking care of it, it's going to start coming out in other aspects of my life.
Right.
And it just makes the pain worse, right?
Yeah,
so you're just kind of
you don't kick the can down the road. It starts to blow up.
But talking to people is scary. Talking to people is scary. Trust is difficult, right?
Well, when I was younger, I was in therapy. I chose to go to it because I didn't want to make the same mistakes again. And really what I found out was what was challenging is that I didn't really want to face the truth because it was too painful.
Yeah.
And, because there is some truth to everything, just a degree of what you think might be real, and then you start unpacking things, you realize that it wasn't as bad as you think it was. But at the moment you thought it was, like you said, it was your fault. It really wasn't your fault. It wasn't my fault about Coop. He chose to take a Xanax. Mm-hmm. I don't think he chose to take a Xanax that was laced. But unfortunately, we're in that world today where, when I grew up, you just overindulged and people did too much heroin or they drank too much alcohol and their body failed or they got killed in a car. Today, you're being poisoned. That's what's really fucking terrible. You're being poisoned. Mm-hmm. And that's why you're doing what you're doing, what I'm doing, because that has to change from a global standpoint. It's beyond me and you. It's beyond so much. It's beyond politics. There's a politician I saw on YouTube that was angry about how much fentanyl is coming across the border. Mm-hmm. He says it's not a red issue, like Republican. It's not a blue issue. It's a red, white, and blue issue. Mm-hmm. And it's absolutely true. We should all be together on that, and all be together on mental health, and being able to provide resources for kids and adults and everybody that are struggling without a stigma. One of the greatest political arguments right now, it's been going on for decades, is socialized medicine. No, we can't do that. Too much money. Yes, we need to do that. We got to save the whales, right? Mm-hmm. Well, the point is there's certain things that need to be, I think, socialized, be paid for. Mm-hmm. If we run this country correctly, we should have the net profit, the surplus money to put back into our people. If you run your company to a positive fund balance, you're going to put back into helping other things and continuing that. I don't think you're just writing blank checks and going negative all the time,
Right.
like maxing out the credit cards. And neither should our country do that. But veterans, mental health, addiction, abuse, all that stuff. And people that can't afford cancer treatment. We just talked to somebody at the park yesterday in our community where we walk our dogs. One of the guys that works there, his wife has got a serious cancer issue, and she's with the school system, right? To some degree, she's done with her insurance. They're not going to cover it. She can't cover cancer treatment. It's like she's going to die. So they're going to do a GoFundMe for her. I'm like, why would insurance say no? I mean, I'll look for the loophole, right, or whatever. It makes no sense to me.
Yeah.
And that's not like, let's get them a stimulus check so they can go buy cigarettes and alcohol. That's not what we're talking about. These are the important things. So it's and your focus has been on preventative. I mean, like people are not going to stop doing drugs.
Probably.
They're not going to stop.
Yeah.
I've had people ask me about supporting naloxone and having Narcan and stuff in schools. That aren't you encouraging kids to do drugs? Kind of saying it's okay. It's like, look, reality is they're going to fucking do drugs no matter what. They're going to drink. They're going to party. They're going to have sex. They're going to say bad words. I mean, they're going to be real, right?
Yeah.
Point is that they don't need to die. So that was the same conversation when I guess they were handing out condoms in schools and colleges and like you're promoting promiscuity. It's like, dude, it's happening. You just want to, it's educate and prevent. But it's we're talking about lives dying. I mean, you're telling me as a LA County firefighter paramedic, you're in the busiest, I don't know what you call it, the ward or quadrant, busiest
zone.
Busiest zone.
District.
District.
Yeah.
And you see this stuff every day.
LA City, but
LA City. Sorry.
Varsity. Inner feuds, those. But yeah, no, our district is the busiest district. We have a huge call volume. It's per resource. So it's also in SPA 4 of LA County. SPA 4 has the highest overdose rates of any part of LA County. And it's not uncommon for us to go on more than 6 a day.
Overdoses.
Just
overdose.
Yeah, just overdoses, not including all the other calls that we run. All of them, especially with the rains. But that is a very common thing that we do, and it's all ages. It's not just
youngest to
we've gone on people like 14-year-olds to 55-year-olds, right? But like I would say our average age is like mid-20s, early 20s, and it happens so frequently that you just wouldn't believe it, right?
So let me drill down a little bit on this. Average is 6 a day. That's just in your deal. So I mean, there's other ones going on. So of those, how many of those, I want to kind of phrase this carefully, are as a result of being laced with fentanyl versus no fentanyl?
Sure. I mean, the problem that we're seeing in the supply is that it's being put into just about everything, right? Some of these people are willfully using it, right? Some people are not, right? They're doing a different type of substance. But I can tell you, based off the amount of naloxone that we have to use to revive this person, and like it's very different in the emergency services and the way that we revive people. Like in your day-to-day, with the way that we train people to use like intranasal naloxone,
right.
That's not our first line. We go straight to your IV. We go straight to the vein. So it's
you guys do that.
We do that.
So you're putting an IV of naloxone in them?
Every single time.
Okay, so I was making, as a layman, I'm thinking, because of the training, that you're either injecting them or you're doing the nasal spray.
Yeah, we don't use that first. So what that means for us is that we should need the nasal spray. Like we are giving out a new one right now. It's like 8 milligrams.
What's that called again?
Coopsadvice. It's like a really good one.
Right.
You're not a medical professional, so in a training, we can't expect you to like do something called titrating to respiratory effect. No. It's a dangerous gamble unless you're really sufficient at measuring tidal volume in someone's lungs.
Even just doing the syringe, you're going to be freaking out and like panicking. It's like, the nasal's the easiest and it's the safest.
That's it. We just want you to be able to respond. Intramuscular is good too, but the less steps we take out of the process and the easier it is for you, the better you're going to do in a crisis. For us, we have a whole system. We're coming down. And our goal is actually not to wake the person up so they like give you a high five or even tell you that they're okay. We titrate that medicine at a very low dose just so their respiratory rate returns to normal. That's it. That's all we want to accomplish.
And then you can get them to a hospital.
Then we can get them to a hospital. They can get observed and they go through it, right? We used to dose that medicine in a very small amount, 0.5 milligrams. Now it's taking us like 6 just to get the person to breathe again. Not to open their eyes, not to do anything, just to get them to breathe again.
Because?
The drug is stronger.
It's fentanyl,
significantly stronger.
It's probably fentanyl.
It absolutely is.
So you can't tell when, unless someone tells you, they just took like a Percocet or just a Xanax.
So you don't know. There are signs that you can identify and that will lead you down. You do a differential diagnosis based off of the signs you're prevented, right? So a sign would be like, you have pale skin or like you feel nauseous and you're throwing up, right? And you use that to determine, okay, I believe that it's this type of condition and we have a treatment for it. We have a treatment algorithm for it. So in an opioid overdose, one of the signature signs is obviously they're going to be unconscious. They're going to have slow respirations. Yeah. They're also going to have pinpoint pupils.
Right. Right.
And so if you can identify those 3, you can be pretty sure that it's an opioid overdose and you can go straight to naloxone, right? And like Xanax, alcohol, different types of drugs that are still classified as CNS depressants, they won't have those pinpoint pupils. You're still going to manage their airway, do everything the same, but you wouldn't know 100% what substance it was until you gave the naloxone and it worked. Right? Because naloxone only works on one thing.
Right.
Opioids.
Right.
Works on fentanyl, Oxycontin, heroin, codeine, Vicodin. Works on all of them. It's not going to work on anything else.
Gotcha.
Until you get that toxicology report, then you're not necessarily going to know. Right? But based off of the amount of medicine that we have to give, how far gone they are, how fast they overdosed, right?
You can kind of tell what they're on.
You can tell. Also, we're so familiar with it because we do it so often. We respond on these calls so often is that you just get really used to it, which is probably not a good thing. But
you don't want to get used to it, but you're getting used to it.
Sure.
So of the opioid overdoses, is it pretty much almost all that is laced with fentanyl?
Yeah, much of it is. Yeah, I mean, and it's just because of the nature of like the drug supply, right? Like there was a time where everything was just heroin. There was a time where everything was just Oxycontin. Right. But overdoses were still very prevalent even when it wasn't opioids. When it was crack cocaine and cocaine, people were still overdosing. Right. Those are still significant. You have huge issues that are associated with that. And it's still a ton of people. And so what we really want to help people understand is that each kind of overdose has a response plan for it. You were calling it poisoning. And U.S. Poison Control teaches something. Every paramedic will learn it. They're called toxidromes. Have you ever heard of a toxidrome before?
I have no idea what that is.
Education time.
Okay. Are you guys listening?
So toxidromes, imagine like you had that question of, I can't tell what substance this is, right? But what if I told you that every substance fell into like a category, right? And that
makes sense.
Makes sense, right? For all of like stimulants, they all, underneath them, they had subcategories, but they all lived in the stimulant zone. All the opioids lived in an opioid zone, right? Toxidromes are ways for you to identify through someone's signs and symptoms and how they're presenting which category they fall into. And there's only 5. And if you can identify the category, it doesn't matter if they took heroin or fentanyl, you can provide the same treatment.
Right, because that's like the opioid category.
Exactly.
Versus like a stimulant category.
It'll have its own, and it'll have a very specific treatment. So one of the things that we want to do is, obviously, we have an opioid epidemic that's spiraling out of control, but there's still other emergencies. There's still other poisonings. Sometimes people will overdose on hallucinogens.
Right.
They'll overdose on stimulants, right? There's cholinergics and anticholinergics. That's a whole nother thing. Those are like what you would think of classical poisons. But being able to equip everyone with the ability to respond to any crisis. Because the reality is that as we continue, these things are going to evolve. And we need to equip people with as many tools as they can. And these things aren't super complicated, right? Like a 20-minute training goes a really long way, right?
Yeah.
It's the same thing as like an earthquake drill. It's like, all right, like we train it all the time. It probably isn't going to happen tomorrow, but you're going to feel really good when you have that earthquake plan when the earthquake hits.
Right.
It's the same idea. And so like as an emergency responder with, everything that's going on, it seems like a no-brainer. Why wouldn't you have that same level of training in case this crisis goes on? You're out at night, you're hanging out with a friend, this emergency happens, and now you have a plan, right? That's it. It's just there. It's ready for you, right?
So why do you think we don't have such a great plan implemented, particularly like even in our school systems? Well, I mean, what do you think it is?
I don't know. And like, I just want it to be different, right? I don't know why we don't have these plans, but I truly believe that we can, and that if we build it, people will use it. And that's really at End Overdose, what we've been focused on is let's build that for people. Let's make it as interesting and as digestible as possible, and have, obviously enough of these learning points that it's retainable, where people can feel secure in a crisis that they're presented with, because there's nothing worse than being in an incident and you don't know what to do.
What I sense from the people that we're in contact with, like when you came to our community and all those folks were sitting in that room, they're really not aware of how bad this is and how prevalent it is, and it's everywhere. One of the things that I've spoken with them individually, people that I see, is basically we kind of have two categories. I can always try to narrow things down. We have things that are prescription, and then we have non-prescription.
Sure.
So let's put everything in the prescription category, which would be like, painkillers, antidepressants, Adderall. I guess now dispensaries would be weed. So let's look at the things that we know that are processed and they're controlled by the government, so to speak, that they're not going to be tainted.
Sure.
All right. And you have to make sure that those are coming from those sources, so that if someone gives you an Adderall because you got a test tomorrow and you ran out of yours, you got to make sure that actually came from a pharmacy, right?
Sure.
Everything else is all being poisoned. I mean, you can pretty much figure that here's your chances. Probably pretty good. Anything that is not prescription has got poison in it, whether it's cocaine, whether it's counterfeit antidepressants and opioids and counterfeit weed and vape cartridges. I mean, why would you take the chance knowing that? And most of the people I talk to, they have no clue that what do you mean it's poisoned? I mean, it's all laced with fentanyl.
Sure.
It's all cut with fentanyl, and they're like, that doesn't make sense. And I go, tell me where it doesn't make sense.
You're never going to discourage somebody from using something, right? And so, for us, one of the things is like obviously educating as many people as you can on the potential of having something that is tainted. I mean, drug dealers aren't FDA approved, right? There's no laboratory sciences going on, right? Your mushrooms probably aren't tainted. Your LSD probably isn't tainted, right? It shows up in certain drugs more than others, right? Very rarely does it show up in weed. That's like it's very, very rare.
My understanding though is out of the South, where it seems like everything gets kind of like trial run through the South. I think it's the demographics. They're starting to find fentanyl in the consumables. Gummies, things of that sort.
Maybe, yeah. It's dependent geographically, right? And that's like you can go into, we have to have interagency operability. Like Pennsylvania, Philadelphia had the huge problem that's coming over with a drug called Trank, and xylazine, which is now we're seeing small amounts of it on the West Coast.
I just started reading about that.
But it's when some of these things you read, it makes it sound much bigger than it is, and it may not be as big as you think it is. But what's really important for us is more so we have a lot of information on coming out at people of, hey, this is like all this like dangerous shit, right? But we don't have a lot of information coming out of like, hey, all right, the crisis could happen. What are you going to do to get help? What are we going to do about it? How are you going to save people, right? What are you going to do? It's all like, all right, but like what? And this is for me, like, and for us, this is something we've seen a lot of, which is like, okay, we understand the problem. I'm not dismissing it, but how are we helping people? How are we giving them the resources? How are we making sure that they're secure, that they are empowered to act and have that in their life, right? So they can keep them and their community safe. And for us, there's amazing organizations out there that are really working on all those pieces. And what we want to focus on is making sure people have accessible, useful, free resources that really ultimately save people's lives. And including on all the things that we see, our current challenges that we're faced with, ideally is that I truly believe that people really want that. I think
100% they do.
And
you could see it in that room with those 40 or 50 neighbors of mine. They totally want it. They just don't know what to do.
That's the thing, right? Like, you can accomplish the same goal by training someone, right? Like, when you show somebody how to rescue breathe, or you show someone how to administer naloxone, it's going to impact you in the same way. You're going to realize, oh, okay, this is a risky thing, right?
Yeah.
Like, and that's all you need to say. You don't need to like lecture anybody or moralize them or anything like that. It's if you prepare somebody for like this scenario, this possible scenario, it gives you all the lessons that you
just need to know what to do.
That's it. Like, hey, I understand the criticality of this. I have a level of understanding that is going to make me, secure and be able to respond. And it's also giving me the education that I need to know to identify this substance. Yeah. Right. And I think that that's huge. Instead of, a lot of people don't know about it because they don't have room to talk about it.
With the naloxone that you're supplying, do any of the manufacturers provide to you for free, or do you have to buy everything?
Some. So we're really fortunate, right? So we have the state of California for the naloxone that we send out in the state. Most of it is funded through the grant, the Naloxone Distribution Project.
From California? From California,
right? So
they give you X amount of dollars to deploy, or they provide the naloxone?
They provide the medication.
Okay.
So they will provide up to 2,100 doses of intranasal naloxone a month. It's a lot.
A month?
Yes.
That's a lot.
It's a lot.
That's good.
We burn through that very easily, right? And that's because of the online outreach that we do for the state and the in-person outreach. We help, school systems. Right. We help, we help other nonprofits. Right. We help, homeless. We do everything, right? So we'll burn through that. Then we also were really fortunate. Have you ever heard of a company called Hikma?
No, I'm not.
So basically there was a moment in the COVID pandemic where naloxone wasn't being made. Right? It just wasn't, the production of it was very greatly diminished.
I didn't know that.
And that was because a company called Pfizer that made it, really important. They just couldn't. They had to make the vaccine. They were just
focusing on COVID stuff.
It was just like crap, right? Yeah. So we had this really big shortage. It was a huge problem. And Hikma started to make their own generic and basically saved harm reduction, right? Like, in a lot of ways.
Really? I didn't know this.
So they those intramuscular, you guys donated, for the Coops Foundation donated $4,000, and we spent it all on intramuscular naloxone. It's a huge amount of stuff that we give out.
Interesting. I didn't know that.
And so that comes from a company called Hikma, and they also make an intranasal dose, which is the medicine that we also give out, called Coopsadvice.
I've heard, okay, so I think there's a neighbor of mine whose daughter is working for that company of Coopsadvice.
Okay, yeah, cool. It's the same, it's like brands and all this stuff. Yeah. But they reached out to us. They have an organization called the Velocity Bio Group, and what they do is they just try and help communities, right? They understand that this is a huge problem, and they basically will donate some of those medicines. So last year, into some of this year, and we've already gone through all of it, they donated 20,000 doses.
Wow.
And we committed that to a bunch of nightlife events. We committed that to a bunch of outreach events. We make sure that we have 12 college groups across the nation, that those college groups are supplied. So it's all like, just like that, it's gone. But that type of, basically those type of donations, we depend on as an organization. We're completely funded through donations. So if an organization donates medicine to us, that's huge.
Right, because you have to spend your money. You have to spend your money.
And naloxone retail is not a cheap thing. Like the discounted price is like $45.
Right, that's a lot.
Right, unless you get the little vials, but you also have to train people more intensely because what you're doing for the everyday person is you're showing them more steps.
Right.
Right, and you can't beat just squirting it in someone's nose.
I understand.
It's very simple to use, right? So for us, it's always just kind of been a balance, right? Is making sure that we have the supply financially and medication, as well as, making sure that we can support the people. Our problem is that we don't need to, there are tons of organizations that reach out to us. There are tons of people that reach out to us that want help. We just can't commit to them because we don't have enough resources to give them yet. And hopefully what we hope to have happen is that we can basically connect everybody in a way that is really effective, that if they want something, that not only will they get it, but they'll be able to plug in with a local resource, maybe like a state grant. Not everybody is as robust as California, right? I don't know if you saw the opioid settlements that came from Purdue, but not everybody has the same health infrastructure as California.
No, then for some reason it seems like Florida is pushes against this to a certain degree.
There's all these things. Everybody, I think, agrees that we need to make sure people live. Right. So
that's how we go about it.
I think it's just like basically what we need to make sure is that people have access to this resource, right? I think you should be able to get it over the pharmacy. I don't think you should have to talk to pharmacists. I think you should be able to just go get it, right? And it should be not $100. It should be like $10. Right. Most. Right. Or you click a button, which is what we try and accomplish, and we'll send it to your house. You don't have to talk to anybody. Right. Take a training, we'll send it to your house.
Exactly.
Because that's the other thing is some people may not be really comfortable going into a pharmacy and getting it. Right. You got to talk to the counter. If you don't have insurance, it's going to cost you $125. It's that's not right.
What do you think what this is all going to end up? I mean, people are not going to stop doing drugs. The drugs are being, infiltrated. Mm-hmm. What do you think ultimately the end game with all this?
I mean, I'm really hopeful. I think that a lot of people are really speaking out that they really want resources and they really want help. And I think the people that I meet on a daily basis are doing amazing things. They're working on really amazing projects to bring those services to people. And I'm really hopeful. The way that we've been able to grow is by the support of our community and making sure our community is kept safe. And I think that we're going to see a lot of positive changes in the next couple of years where we really start getting these resources to anybody that wants it will have it. My vision is that if you need something right now, you could click a button because it's 2023,
right,
and you'll get it right then and there, and it'll be tailored to you, perfectly towards you. Mental health services, any type of opioid overdose or a drug overdose response, the resources that come along with it, and the community and the support that you need as well. So I believe in the trajectory that we're going, and especially with the people that support us and work with us. I don't know. I'm hopeful.
You're seeing, the overdoses increase year over year. Illegal drugs is a big business.
Sure.
You can watch all the documentaries, on everything. It's hard for me to conceptualize how do we, I don't know if we'll ever slow this down. And we'll just constantly we'll have resources, but we'll just still have a lot of people, maybe not dying, but we still have this problem. Does really preventing it from coming across our borders help?
Well, I think that has been a tale as old as time.
I mean, here's where I'm going with this.
Sure.
At one point in time, I grew up where my parents smoked.
Sure.
And then I grew up where nobody smoked because it was all about being healthy and sports and fitness. And cigarette consumption went way down. It was the mindset of our nation. It just people got convinced that this wasn't good. And then our millennials, et cetera, started smoking again, and then it went to vape. So it increased. Can that happen with drug use?
I think it's already happening, right? Even though the opioid overdose death rates are going up, I think the conversations that we're having now are really, really positive, right? You have a drug that is one of the strongest drugs that's ever hit the drug supply, right? But we've been trying to fight traffickers since the 70s. Yeah. Heroin was huge, right? Yeah. But the conversations that we're having now about providing people resources immediately personal to them that will help them, right? That's new.
Yeah.
And that's something that we really, really need. And I think everyone agrees on that. And that's a really good conversation to have. And as we continue to do that and we continue to build off that, I really believe it's going to put us in a better place.
So what you're saying is that will help curtail the requirement of someone to want to use something because they're getting better mental health treatment. They're getting better therapy. They're making different choices.
Well, I mean, I think it's going to be a net positive if everybody had every health resource they needed available to them, right? Hands down, right?
Well, I know you certainly go get checked more often.
Well,
right?
I think there would be a lot of good that comes from that. And the other thing is that, you know, what we're really wanting to see, what we really want to focus on is that not only is this something that's, you know, opioid overdose, all these things are continuously evolving, is that we need to be able to evolve our response as well to meet it, right? Like these things aren't going away. They're going to be here, right? And what we have right now is we have a problem. People are literally dying right now. So whether you want that to be happening or not isn't really the question. It's what are you going to do right now?
Yeah.
It's literally happening right now.
I think it's something like every 11 minutes somebody's dying from a fentanyl overdose.
And so in like an emergency or anything like that, you can't look at something and be like, I don't know if that building should be on fire.
No, just...
I don't know if that building should be on fire.
Save them.
You're like, okay, man, let's save the people. Let's put the fire out. That's all. You just do it, right?
Right.
And so I think when we're looking at these things, that's something that we really want to focus on is like, let's make sure we can help people immediately. Let's save as many lives as we can right now.
And then we can start, unpacking to what can we do to prevent the building from going on fire next time.
Yeah, I mean, and the other thing too is it's like, this is something for us that, we have a solution that really works. We have a medicine, we have a training, and we have people that want it. And this has happened before. This actually happened with cardiac arrest, out of hospital cardiac arrest.
I was going to mention something about that. Yeah.
So there was a time when people did not know what CPR was. They did not know what an AED was. If you had a heart attack outside of a hospital, people just lost their mind.
You were dead.
You were dead. That was it. You were dead, right? And the American Heart Association came around, and they were basically like, oh, shit, like we could save this person's life, right? Like if you did this hospital procedure, if you did it out of hospital, if we trained everybody to do this, we would see not only a reduction in deaths, but we would also see better outcomes and everything like that. So they started a campaign where they trained everyone in CPR. We had places where you have AEDs posted into gyms and other buildings. And that's really what we want to be able to do. And the method is there. That's what we model, right? This is the outline is there.
Yeah.
We just need to build the institution that surrounds it, and that's End Overdose. That's what we're trying to build so that no matter what happens, you have the availability to respond to that crisis.
But part of you coming to our community, Triva had you come and do that training and certification, is it began at a conversation with the board president at a function we were at. A community function. It was a social function, and was like, why isn't this we have security patrol with every security officer. Why isn't it at the various stations we have in the community that have the defibrillators?
Yeah, why not?
I mean, you can break the glass and pull out naloxone or pull up defib if you need
That's
that.
That's it. Available.
I mean, it should be in schools. It should be. I mean, truthfully, what we're telling people when we have people that want to get trained and certified through End Overdose, get your when you pass and you get your naloxone, keep it in your car. I guarantee you, we're going to run to a time. It can be at a parking lot, a mall, somebody's house, whatever. Somebody's going to OD. You're going to know how to identify it, and you're going to have what's going to be there to save their life. It's like having a defib in your car or knowing how to do CPR. That's how far we've gotten with this, and it's not going away.
And then that's a model that really works, and you can continuously build off of that model, right? You can always improve on that model. And once we have that really established, working for everybody, and it's accepted by everybody, I think we're going to start seeing even better positive changes that are going to just improve the lives of everybody here.
Are there other groups like End Overdose doing what you're doing?
There are tons of organizations that work in this space. There are many, many organizations
doing exactly what you're doing. Training and
they're not doing it in the way that we do it, I would say, right? They're not doing it in the way that they're not kind of following the philosophy that we follow, the way that we provide that training, the way that we do it. They're similar, but not the same, right? I would say that End Overdose is unique in the way that we've been able to reach people and the way that we've been able to, build our organization. A huge part of that is because we're really focused on our mission, right? Our mission is what we're trying to accomplish. And we are, in a sense, one-minded in that. And that makes us more effective than a lot of organizations because we don't get distracted by anything. We're not trying to be anything else.
You're staying in your lane.
We're staying in our lane, right? We're not trying to be 100%. Anything else. We're trying to make sure everybody's trained, everybody can stay alive. We're not trying to figure out all these other things. There are amazing organizations that are, but what we want to do is if the call for help is heard, we want to be there to answer it.
So you're handling it just like you do on a paramedic run, basically.
Same
kind of model. It's like somebody's in distress, we're here, we can deploy, we're saving it.
Help them.
Yeah, help them. You're alive. Yeah. We got you alive, and now the rest. Now then, what goes on from there?
And now we can connect you to it, right? Because the best time, especially if that's the case, if somebody needs a resource beyond what we have, that's the best time to connect it.
Yeah.
And we don't need to create that.
No.
There's organizations like yours.
There might
be
a referral. It's like, hey, try this, try that.
What we want to help build on that piece is how easy that connection is. Seamless. Yeah. You shouldn't have to fill out all these questionnaires. You shouldn't have to do all this stuff. You should literally be able to be like, okay, I need this right now, right? Yeah. You can have Uber come pick you up anywhere on the planet. Yeah. You know what I mean?
It should be like that.
That's the goal.
And as long as Uber gets there within the next hour.
Yeah.
And doesn't have triple the rate.
Yeah. I mean, you could do some of all that stuff out.
How long have you guys been around?
So we've been around for
this.
A while.
Like when did you start it?
The idea was formed in 2017. So one of our board members, Ryan Hampton, was also one of the people that helped negotiate the Purdue Pharma settlement, right?
Is it attorney?
No. He's a very well-respected activist in this space, right? In the recovery space, in this community. And he has done a lot of work in that field. And at the time when I met him, he's also in recovery. He's been in person recovery for a long time. He was doing a Facebook live stream and wanted to train people how to use naloxone. He gave me my first naloxone kit, and he was like, you should start a nonprofit. I don't know if he was serious, but I thought it was a really good idea, and I just took it, right? And I used to just walk to basically drug treatment centers and health clinics and just be like, hey, do you want some Narcan, right? And train them how to use it. But we kind of kept that going until 2018. My sister and one of my friends, Leah, we actually incorporated it. And it was still relatively small, right? We became like a true nonprofit foundation. We didn't have an office. We just like walked around and gave out Narcan. Right. We trained like maybe like 100 people that year in 2018. 2019, we started doing a little bit more, started training people like, a treatment center a month, right? My sister had a baby, so she was like, hey, I can't help you with this, right? Like, I gotta go, right?
Wow, interesting.
My friend Leah wanted to become a nurse or start working in healthcare, so she kind of dialed back as well. And there was actually a time where we didn't know I didn't know if it was gonna be anything. And that was like 2020, coming into becoming a fireman. My friend was taking it, we were doing these things.
Plus you're also coming into COVID.
COVID
just shook everything up.
COVID happened and shut everything down. And it was actually my friend Chris was helping me keep everything afloat. We talked and we were like, man, with COVID, like, I don't know, everything's shut down. You can't do outreach. And we decided to create an online training, and it was really hard. We Zedge over here filmed our first fentanyl test strip video.
The online training's really good.
Yeah,
I mean,
Zedge filmed it.
I'm so
Zedge
ADD. After the first couple clicks, I'm like, I'm out. I can't even get through anything.
Sure.
Right? No, I was totally into it, and I kept going back. A couple of times. I didn't get everything right. I got to get this right. That's like the obsessive compulsive part of me.
Sure.
No, I got to get 100%. Then I was into it and go, you know what? Then I saw my certificate.
Yeah.
It really made me feel like I accomplished something.
You did.
I actually did it twice because I did a refresher.
Yeah.
Just to make sure, because I really want to be able to know comfortably in a situation. I really believe I'm going to walk upon something and it's going to happen.
And so the first training we made wasn't like that. Zedge hadn't made it yet. Zedge wasn't there. It was not that good. It was pretty janky. People that have been with us for a while saw that, and they were just happy that it existed. And it wasn't until I think 2021 we really, towards the end of the year, we really started to focus on it. Got this office space, the first office space in the front. And I worked with Zedge, and we've started working on our second version of our training. And that actually came out in February of 2022. So early into the year.
Wow. So really, it's kind of a long process. Then it started taking off in the beginning of 2022.
Yeah. Well, it was just for me, I didn't have the time to dedicate. So I was a paramedic full time. I was really broke all the time.
Yeah, well. I
was working in Riverside, commuting from LA, and I was becoming a new fireman is really a lot, right?
Of course.
And once I had gotten through the probationary process, once you're like ready, my life stabled out, and I had the vision that I had, and I was like, we're going to put the pieces together.
So when did it really start getting traction?
So probably the first few months of 2022. So that's
hits the ground running when, like, we got a good stride. When? Summer of 2022?
No, I would say I would say that we started finding our own in the new year. We started finding our own, and we started focusing on another way to do outreach, another way to like engage with people. Our online training was a huge part of that. We met Cami Pettin. Cami's awesome. She was a YouTuber. Now she's a rock star.
Nice.
She helped us a lot. Like, we would not be anywhere we are without the support of the community, the online community, everybody, people that, influencers, everything like that.
Yeah.
They've supported us immensely. Right?
Yeah, I don't know how Coop found you. I never got a chance to ask him, but he found you somehow.
And what ended up happening is different people met us at different times, and they just offered to help. They're like, this is a good idea. This should be places. And then
they resonate with it.
And they would just share it, right? And this isn't like my organization. This is all of our organization. Right. And the only reason it exists is because we have amazing volunteers. We have organizations that are ready to help us. We have people that are extremely talented that believe in the mission, they build it. And I would say definitely what ended up becoming more and more catalysts were, as for example, when we started working with you, that was a ginormous catalyst. Another ginormous catalyst we had is when Pasquale Rotella from Insomniac brought us in and started having us do these trainings at all of his large festivals.
Because it gets you the exposure?
Gets us a lot of exposure there. And then we also started doing more things that like aren't very public because they're not really exciting, but like working, with different governments, working really to help under like funded communities, getting into schools, building out a school program, building out the school trainings, doing a lot of those things. Now you'll see us everywhere. That's the goal.
Your social media following, it's gotten big. It's getting bigger.
Yeah.
When did you start seeing it
So I
grow?
think, it became the largest is in 2022 once we started working with Cooper.
Really?
Yeah, that's when it started to, around that time, that was the summer, we started doing a couple things differently. We started incorporating college groups, and we started focusing on training colleges and having the college groups start doing their own outreach. And then we also started doing things called, we called them No One Else Has to Die. And we worked with a company called Restless Nights.
That's a great tagline.
And basically what they were is it was literally just like we'd throw a show and it would be 100%. The goal wasn't actually to raise money. They didn't make any money. The goal was actually to create enough attention around them that you would traffic people not only through the online resource so they would get trained, you would also have them come to that event and get trained there too. So the first one, 1,300 people got trained. And we realized this is a really effective way to get people through this. And it's fun. You come to a show.
Yeah, it's fun. Yeah.
And what ended up happening is local news sources picked it up. And so, we don't have a media budget like that. No. We're not paying for publications or anything like that. So that was immensely helpful. And because of Restless Nights, because of the traction that we got in some, small media segments, people started to realize that this service was free and available to them, and it started to move forward there.
That's cool.
And so it's all been, through really, we've just been fortunate and lucky that, the people around us have supported us.
That's cool. It's good to hear that kind of story. Mm-hmm. I mean, it's how we connected with you. Mm-hmm. I mean, if we didn't know, it would have just died. We didn't know to the degree that how passionate Coop was about it. but he spoke about it with a lot of people. And obviously it made the impression on Alana and Alex, because they were the first ones to say, these are the things that he wanted to, let's further support it. And then, you know, my involvement is I always kind of end up like in a leadership role. So I'm kind of more of a big thinker and like, well, let's figure out what you're doing and what we could do to help and support. Let's figure out the Discord, which is, you know, we've had to kind of, since the age group and that thing is rather young, we've had to kind of parent it a little bit and let them know, like, here's where you can do this, but you don't do it over here. And just some of the vending can get a little, but I realize they're kids, but it's a very good resource for them. I get so many different things approaching me. It's hard to understand what is an opportunity to go forward with, but you know, it's interesting. It's bizarre. I really feel Coop lays a hand and just goes, no, you're going to go with this one. And we feel led. You feel like it resonates, and it's the right thing to do. And the other things that some of the other things are just we're not quite ready for. It's not quite a good fit. You know, like there was one organization that wanted to be involved with us with providing free therapy, but there's all kinds of issues with it with nonprofit and profit.
Sure.
And then there's like forums and all that, which you talked about earlier. It's like, hey, look, they need help. They need to get it like that. Yeah. You know, and so that was something that we would end up being too bogged down with, and like I don't know if it'd get off the ground. Truly. Sure. You know, that's a whole other story. Even though they were willing to, you know, grant a bunch of free stuff, but it's like I don't think it's not where we're at today. Sure. We try to stay in the lanes like you mentioned earlier, that we can be the most helpful with, but also there's really a degree of being led, you know. And I really feel like, honestly, it's when it happens and the light goes off, the exact words that I say, I go, thanks, Coop, you little fucker, because that's exactly what happens. You know, that's his nickname the nickname we gave his dog that he and Sab that we inherited. I don't know if you met Coda, though, the one, Aussie. No, anyway, his nickname's Little Fucker. Oh, okay. Yeah. It's just like, he is so much like Cooper. Yeah. No, seriously, he is Cooper incarnated in that dog. And it's like when he's at home and all the little nuances and the things he would do, like how he lays on you, all that, he's a little fucker. Yeah. So, but I totally feel when Coop's presence is saying, like, dude, Dad, you got to do this, go do that, take that call or call that person, you know, open up the conversation with that. It's a weird feeling, man. It's kind of like, you know, it's like you ever had that feeling when somebody's staring at you, you look over and somebody is. Yeah. Yeah, it's kind of like that. It's like a seventh sense.
Sixth sense,
seventh, whatever.
14th, I don't know.
Whatever. And it's just, you know, so it's all worked out. I think because, you know, it's really bizarre, Theo. When I was going into 2022, I've had a couple different careers. I was telling Treva, because I mean, real estate's been really good, and I can maintain it. I have a great team. Sure. I have one particular team member, Michael, who really helps and run everything. He's phenomenal. I feel that I can delegate and oversee a lot of it. So maintain it. I thought I'm going to do one more thing before it's over, you know, like one more career. Because I'm always going to work, but something different. Started off as a school teacher. Actually, I started off thinking I was going to be in music. Really? And then my dad convinced me I had to go to college. I really pushed on college. It was always that thing, but pushed on college. And wanted us to get us out of where we were living. The only way you're going to get out from prejudice and all that is go to college. You got to get out of here. And I thought I was going to get out with music. And what he was really saying was, you know, those guys you play with, they're really good, but, you know, you need to go to college. You're not that good. So he was right. Yeah. So I go to college, and that opened a door. Then I became a school teacher out of college. What? Then I got there because of volleyball. Yeah. And I got introduced because of volleyball to help, which led to a teaching job, which helped to a coaching job, which introduced me to community I lived in. I live in now through volleyball. Then I met a guy there that offered me a job because of volleyball. He liked to hire athletes. And then from there, another person through volleyball said, you ever want to start your own company like this? We got some investors. Sure. We started it, sold it, got into real estate because of volleyball, and then I thought maybe I'll go back and be a school teacher, or maybe I'll do something in music. I felt like there was something else that I was going to do, and I never thought it would be this. And all of a sudden, I'm like full-time with real estate, full-time with Coopsadvice Foundation. And when I say full-time with that, I feel like I got to keep moving things forward. And what can we do to help, like with the Discord? What can we help to do with his friends, his core group of friends? Like you probably saw on social media, the photo shoot we did for the last merch run.
Absolutely.
Yeah, so and there was all these models and actors and all. These kids are all I would say in that group that was there, probably 125 million followers collectively for that group.
Totally.
That's their reach. So it's like, they're all supportive of Coop and all this. They don't want that to happen again. And they've all pretty much stopped doing the drugs that they were doing. And they all pretty much stopped vaping. I just kind of said, they've been listening. It's like they don't want to be part of that anymore. And they have an influence on kids, which is great. So you guys have always resonated with us. And we've got to see firsthand, not just coming here after getting freaked out thinking I was going to
fair enough.
whatever. And then, watch what you've been doing, saw what you've done with our community, response back what you've just recently done with Jaden Hostler's tour and his group. And you sent me a week ago kind of a business plan, like next steps level. We try to promote you as much as we can. I try to include you. I don't know who runs your social media, but I tag you guys all the time with Coopsadvice and Cooper and all this. And then you guys seem to repost and stuff. I'm hoping that helps you with the exposure. But we're here to help you in any way we can. And I'm sure money is probably one of the best things, right? I mean, you've never really asked us for money. One thing I wanted to let you know, though, we're gonna do new merch every quarter. And so the first time I think we did a T-shirt and all those proceeds went to you where we issued that grant. We didn't really do that this last quarter, which was that was a mistake. So, since Coop wanted to start, he started wanting to design a T-shirt for you. We want to include you on every merch run we do every quarter. So we'll create something with your logos like a sweatshirt or a T-shirt, but also want to collaborate for stuff that you want to add. We're going to start adding more hats, stuff like iPhone cases, things like that. Kids have been asking for a lot of that stuff. Different types of other accessories and merchandise. So we want to include every run that we do so that we're helping generate money for you. So whoever your design collab person might be, love to get in contact with them because we're going to need to get something here before the end of March to go for the next run. So we want to continue to support you in any way we can.
Yeah.
So also, what I have here.
What's in there? What's he got in there? If you can't see, he's got a secret bag here.
We wanted the Coopsadvice Foundation wanted to give you our second grant. So we just wanted to say thank you for what you're doing.
I'm gonna fucking cry, dude.
Yeah, it's okay. We just we're giving to the End Overdose Coopsadvice Foundation a grant of $10,000 to further do whatever they need to do. We have total faith and confidence in Theo and the organization, and we know, hey, our son's life couldn't be saved, but we believe through this, many other people, their kids, their parents, their brothers, their sisters, their girlfriends and boyfriends have a chance of being saved. And this is just one of the things we're trying to do and deploy our resources as best as we can. We're like you. We have a lot of grassroots donors, kids. It's like $1, $2, $5. It's usually like around the $5 area is the biggest, other than other like donors. And to me, those are the most precious because it might be lunch money, it might be cigarette money they didn't spend, or vape money, or drug money, but they believe in it. And so, this is what Coop wanted.
This is such a huge thing for us. Like, I don't. This is $10,000. This is a huge lump sum of money, and
it's not big in the world of donation, but we're growing. I mean, we've only been around since basically, the really like the end of June of last year. We haven't even been around a year yet, and this isn't anything that Treva and I know what to do. This is just what we're doing, and we're thankful and grateful that all these people that knew Coop or follow Coop feel compelled to help with his legacy and the things that he supported. And I'm so thankful that he had the insight to pick things that are like just very mature and very real. So anyway, I wish he was here to be with you, because you would really like the guy. He was a good kid, very good heart.
I'm at a loss for words. I never started this for the money,
I know.
And I don't even get paid, right? It's something I do in addition to my day-to-day.
Same with me.
And this is so crazy, because we're at a point now where we need this. Yeah. And it's not something that we, as we continue to grow, like now it's something that we have to think at. And I don't like asking.
I'm the same way. I don't really ask people to donate to our foundation.
It feels like you're like, fuck.
Yeah, I don't do this. I don't either. People ask, and here it is, and things come in, and it's like, oh my God, look at this. Yeah. Or I'll let Treva know, look who donated this. And I try to respond personally back to everybody where I can, because, they don't know really what they're donating to. And I try to put out a quarterly email with real, results of what we're doing, so people can see that, this isn't going to go away for us, because we really want to educate about, like overdose and fentanyl and prevention and education, so that, and even peel it back to mental health, all the things that our kid went through, he just didn't have to die. That's the part that is so hard. He should still be here. That's the stuff we want to prevent. Can't prevent it all, but the stuff that's preventable, we got to do our fucking best to do that. It's insane today what's out there. The kids and the parents don't know, and to have a resource like this when it's needed. I don't know if you knew this. Coop had Narcan on him. I've assumed that the Xanax that he took was probably laced with enough fentanyl beyond lethal that he couldn't get to it.
Yeah.
So, and then that didn't need to happen. But he's doing wonderful things, today. And this is what we feel compelled to do. So, thank you for all the work you're doing.
Thank you.
Yeah. You're a good man. Thank you for watching. Please like and subscribe. And for more information, please follow us at the Coopsadvice Foundation.org. Thank you.